pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 23rd, 2017 meeting of the Village of Rhinebeck Board of Trustees. Tonight is our regular monthly meeting, but rescheduled from last Tuesday due to the little storm we had. The first order of business is I'd like to make a motion for the hire of Dylan Joslin Peter as a part-time police officer at the rate of $20 per hour.
I second.
Discussion is, application was made available to everybody for review. Anything else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Officer Jocelyn Peter, to the force. Next, we got our County Legislator, Joel Tyner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's good to see Dan Shapley here. Knew him for many years at the Poughkeepsie Drones, did great work, and now as the Riverkeeper Water Quality Program Director. I'm glad to see you guys are working with Dan. I emailed a list of stuff that I might touch on briefly. I hadn't realized, frankly, when I emailed that list last night that the Firemen's Association of the State of New York apparently has a free tuition scholarship program, basically for the vast majority of folks that are putting in a lot of time, volunteer firefighters. But that's only, apparently it's only for 2 years. So I'm trying to build up support for the 3rd and 4th year of free college for folks that are doing the volunteer firefighting and the rescue squad work. So I just thought I'd put that out there. This is the 14th straight year that I'm doing an essay contest for graduating Rhinebeck High School seniors. It's a $100 savings bond. Basically what you would do if you were me, 500 words or less, by June 15th, send it to the county legislature offices at 22 Market Street in Poughkeepsie, 12601, or email me, joeltyner@earthlink.net. On the note of trying to get young people in Rhinebeck a little bit more involved, 4 years ago in Tacoma Park, Maryland, they actually made it legal for 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds to vote. I don't even know if all my fellow Democrats in Rhinebeck are down with that. I really like that idea, and so I'm putting that out there. The journey of a million miles begins with one step, so I just thought I'd put that out there. I don't think it's a crazy or radical notion to have 16 and 17-year-olds vote in Rhinebeck, Dutchess County, across the state. On that note, for many, many years, I've been pushing for the county legislature to have a student leadership summit. I was involved in my student government at Rhinebeck High 36 years ago when I was a senior at Rhinebeck High. And I don't understand why the county, and I brought this up many, many times, I don't understand why the Dutchess County legislature can't have one day a year where, high school kids from all the public and private high schools around the county send delegates and, come up with mock resolutions and local laws and debate. And I know that I would most likely learn quite a bit from that, even elementary, middle school, high school, college students. So I'm putting that out there, what I've learned, that no man is an island. I'm just 1 out of 25, but if I'm sharing these ideas, you guys can help them become reality. 5 or 6 years ago, Rob Rollison, who was the chair of the legislature at the time, and Barbara Jeter Jackson, who was the minority leader at the time, they both told me, listen, we're going to do this, withdraw that county budget amendment, we're going to do this. Well, it never happened. I'm just really frustrated as somebody who used to be involved in my student government that we still don't have that. I wanted to give a shout out to my brother across the aisle, a guy named Mark Coviello from Beekman. He and I have been talking behind the scenes, privately and publicly, about trying to build support to get a law passed in Dutchess County to ban pay-to-play, the way that the Republicans did in the Orange County legislature 4 years ago. County level campaign finance forum, Republican county executive did it 20 years ago in Rockland County. Many times I've proposed it in Dutchess County, they won't even allow it onto the agenda for a committee day because it's illegal to do anything about pay-to-play, legalized kickbacks and bribery in Dutchess County. That's the point of view for many years. But now there's actually a Republican in the county legislature who's helping me push on this So if you folks care about this issue, Dan used to work for the Poughkeepsie Journal. The Poughkeepsie Journal actually did 2 editorials saying, we need to do this. We need to pass a law to ban pay-to-play in Dutchess County. On the Poughkeepsie Journal website today, again, it just came out that there's 200 less jobs in Dutchess County now than a year ago. And I'm just finding that remarkable. The unemployment rate in Dutchess County is a bit higher here than it is in Seattle. In Seattle, everybody's making, who works for a large company, 500 or more employees, is making $15 an hour. And I bring this up because Donald talked about the working class, Bernie talked about the working class, I've cared about the working class. I submit to my fellow politicos, Republican, Democrat, anybody listening, watching, we need to help the working class of Dutchess County make a living wage. The Poughkeepsie Journal last November on the front page pointed out 40% of Dutchess County households can't make ends meet. ALICE, asset limited, income constrained but employed, ALICE. People who are working but poor. 40% of Dutchess County households can barely make ends meet. There's about 10% of that, 5 or 10% of that, maybe on welfare, but there's a good 20, 30%, 35% have jobs, can barely make ends meet. The only other thing I would say is Morales versus Chadbourne, Galarza versus Salzik, Miranda Olivares versus Clackamas County, Mendoza versus Osterberg, Villars versus Kubiatowski, Arosa versus Salt Lake County. I just pointed out, the ACL points out that all across the country, it's not just a moral issue with the freedom cities, the sanctuary cities. There are municipalities that have had to pay a lot of money when they're found guilty for going above and beyond to help ICE round up and deport people. And settlements in Sacramento, Arapahoe County, Colorado, Jefferson County, Colorado, New York City, over $200,000. It's actually illegal for local law enforcement to go above and beyond. So Gina just hasn't been expressing her heart. She's actually trying to save money for the taxpayers of Rhinebeck.
Thank you, Joel.
Yep. Dan? Yep.
Before Dan goes up, I'd like to do an introduction, and also what I'd like to do is I'd like to thank Mayor Heath Tortorella for his stewardship to the community and to our country, and I'd like to everybody join me in a round of applause. All right, Dan Shapley is the Director of Water Quality Program Director for Riverkeepers. And what the Water Quality Program for Riverkeepers is trying to do is to join all of the local municipalities that draw water out of the Hudson River. And there's 7, including Rhinebeck, which is a user of our water system, who comprise our local area. And that's 100,000 people that draw water. And so it's a significant effort, and there's legislation going on that Dan is going to talk about that will go forward to help protecting our clean water for centuries to come. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. This started for my connection to the board here when Gary had called with a question about anchorages and the issue on the Hudson River with the oil transport and oil storage barges, which I know the board has taken action on, and I thank you for that. One just bit of news, there's a press release today that Sue Serino and Dee Dee Barrett put out about legislation that they're proposing that would give New York State more jurisdiction over the Hudson River, particularly addressing that issue. So I'm not prepared to brief you completely on that, but it's something that I urge you to check out and watch. It's probably something that could use support from towns like yours, or villages that draw water from the Hudson particularly. But as Gary said, Village of Rhinebeck and the Town of Rhinebeck districts that draw off of the village system are 2 out of the 7 municipalities that rely on the Hudson River for drinking water. 100,000 people altogether. If it was a single city, it would be the 6th largest in the state. But we don't think of the Hudson as a drinking water source when you drive down the Taconic to New York City, you pass by the Croton Reservoir and you see all these signs entering drinking watershed area, report pollution, watch out, low road salt area, all of these things. Driving around here, our streams and our creeks are really in the same boat in influencing a drinking water supply, but we're not really conscious of them in the same way. So one of the things that we're trying to do is to encourage the communities right now to work together on what I call a scorecard project, something that we developed out of our research after Newburgh lost its reservoir to toxic contamination. You probably heard about that. And so when that happened, we did an analysis of all the laws and rules and regulations and strategies that are available to communities in New York to protect drinking water at its source, and found how few of them were in use in Newburgh. And what my suspicion is, and what I've seen in many communities, is that what's unique about Newburgh is not that it didn't have a well-protected reservoir, it just had particularly bad luck. So the scorecard we've developed is meant to be a self-assessment for communities to develop an understanding of what laws and rules are available and which ones they're using today. What I'm proposing and what I'm asking really is just the cooperation of the village as I go to the other municipalities and we try to get support for a cooperative effort to use this scorecard, and we'll bring the resources and the partnerships to actually do the work of it. So we would just need to know that if we need access to information or a document, that we can pick up the phone and have somebody to call, and that there's an agreement sort of to help out with it. But at the end of it, we'll hopefully be able to provide a kind of roadmap of improvements you can make to better improve this shared drinking water supply. And the opportunity in doing this now is that the state budget process, as you may be aware of, is considering several big water proposals. One of them is proposed by the Senate, the Assembly, and the Governor, and that'll be new planning money for source water assessments. So this scorecard, if the communities get together on it, will prime the pump, and you'll be in great position to access that money as it becomes probably part of the CFA. We'll see, how it ends up being doled out.
What's the CFA mean?
The Consolidated Funding Application. It's where municipalities go. I think it usually comes out in June, and sort of all of the grant opportunities that are available for the state, more or less, in one place. And you have to apply. Everyone applies, and that's what comes out as the so-called Hunger Games announcements a few months later. The other piece of the budget negotiation is a $2 billion or more investment in clean water infrastructure, and in the Governor and Assembly's versions of the budget, source water protection implementation money. So those projects that you might identify through that planning process would then, there would be a pot of money to access to actually implement them. So that part of the budget is uncertain right now because the Senate doesn't include it in its budget. In the next week, we'll know, and we're going to be advocating for its inclusion. But in either case, we're hopeful that doing the project getting started now will help the communities be in line for that new funding as it becomes available, whether it's this year, next year, or on down the line. They're talking about 5-year funding programs for these things. So it'll probably, over the next several years, it'll put the village in a good position to access some of that. So that's the idea. Basically just looking for your cooperation, our agreement to cooperate on it as we get started.
Does the town of Rhinebeck currently, are they in?
Yeah, so I'm a town of Rhinebeck resident, so I went there, was that last week?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and Gary introduced me, and yes, the town agreed to participate.
Okay.
And these are the first two requests that I've made, I guess you could say. Had initial conversations with Hyde Park, and they're interested as well. The other communities, city and town of Poughkeepsie, Highlands Water District in the town of Lloyd, and Port Ewan Water District in the town of Esopus. Altogether is 7 municipalities.
Great, thanks, Dan.
Sure.
Thank you, Dan. So there's really nothing that we need to act on tonight. The importance is that it helps position us with the work that we've done with our water already to maybe go after some of this money if it gets approved by the Senate and becomes available for infrastructure improvement. That's what I really think that's an important part, right?
Yeah, infrastructure improvements, a key part of it. You probably saw in the news, there was just going around over the last couple of days, a headline, 100,000 gallons of sewage spilled into the Hudson River. That was up in Albany, and it was actually not a news event in the sense that happens routinely, pretty much every time it rains. And the actual pipe that it came out of is so commonly a source of this that it has its own name. It's called the Big C. So it's, but that happens in City of Hudson, Village of Catskill, Kingston, closest to the drinking water intakes. So that's one of the issues, certainly, as we're looking at this, that for protecting the drinking water source. You don't want sewage in the water,
Everyone
even though
north
it's
of
treated,
us.
of course.
Right, and they're all
before it
north
gets-
of us.
Yes, and the river flows both ways, so Poughkeepsie on down, there's other sources. Any questions, or is there an informal kind of, can I count on a cooperation if we call the office looking for some help? Is that something I could get tonight?
You can count on me. I don't know if I'll still be here, but you can count on me.
Okay.
How much is available in the, talking about grant money? Is it
So,
like-
yeah, great question. For the assessments, which is the planning part, it looks like $5 million is going to go into the EPF. How that will be allocated and what size grants might be available to communities is not, detailed at this point. Then the larger pot of money, the $2 billion over 5 years, is what is being talked about as a minimum for water infrastructure investments. And the budgets are kind of different on how much would be for source water protection, how much would be for other priorities. But it's quite a bit of new investment in water infrastructure and other water projects that's coming, which is good news. We need that.
So the goal tonight is just for us as a board to say we support. And I would like to offer that with the rest of the board is in agreement, if they are, that we will be a supporter in this endeavor to try to help protect our water supply. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
The next topic, we have Amalgamated Agricultural Associates. Well, let Scott give a little intro there.
So we've had an application to the planning board for the proposal at the old Hobson Appliance site, which is just south of the village. I don't know if you all know that the property was entered into at the agricultural district. It was done by the county, and from that point, they came before the planning board, and there's a proposal to build a farmer's market there. The farmer's market is going to be supported by farms that are outside of our village and town, farms that are in Pleasant Valley, I believe, and in Tivoli, and some land right here in the town of Rhinebeck. Our zoning enforcement officer there had ruled that the use was allowed under our zoning code. There's been a challenge to it, and the zoning board of appeals has reviewed it. There's currently a public hearing that's open, and the zoning board has yet to rule on whether to overturn or to reverse his ruling. So here tonight are the applicant, the attorney is here, and the challenger, John Marvin's here to challenge the ruling by the zoning enforcement officer.
Okay.
So I've asked them both to keep it to 5 minutes, so Victoria, you're up first.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. Victoria Polidoro. I'm an attorney at Rodenhouse & Shaw here on behalf of Amalgamated Agricultural Associates, LLC. They're the applicant and owner of the Hobson's Appliance site. So Scott just gave a very good summary of the issue. We've been before the planning board for approval to be a farm market for a few months, and an appeal was filed, which kind of stopped the process until that issue of whether a farm market is permitted as agriculture is resolved. What you have in your village is a big commercial building that has been there for decades, which has been zoned to residential and agriculture. And so instead of knocking the building down and putting up 8 to 10 houses, the applicant has decided to continue the farming tradition. I don't know if you know, but Jeff Hicks has been farming that property for decades. He's been growing potatoes and other vegetables. So farming will continue, and it really is a great opportunity to put in a farm market. It's visible, it's got ample parking, and it's located on Route 9, which is a gateway for tourists entering and leaving Rhinebeck. So it's very good for that purpose. Because this zoning board appeal did stop the planning board process, we applied to New York State Department of Ag and Markets to intercede and say that the zoning board process is an unreasonable restriction. Your zoning law allows agriculture. Part of agriculture is the ability to sell your products. You can't have one without the other. So the reason we're here before you tonight is because Ag and Markets has given this board the opportunity to submit comments. So we just want to make sure you have a clear understanding of the project so that you're informed if you do want to submit comments. So the first part of the project really is going to be beneficial to the village because it's going to visually enhance a building that I personally find very unattractive. They're proposing to remove the mansard roof. They're going to daylight a lot of the windows. There used to be windows along the doors at Hobson's, and they've been covered up in the years since, probably for security reasons. So the windows will be daylighted. The mansard roof will come down. The brick will be treated with a whitewash, which will give it more of a rural country feel, similar to the Beekman Arms. And zinc lighting fixtures are proposed to give it that farmhouse look. So there won't be any major renovations, but there will be visual enhancements. Let's see. Okay. So this is the site. In the front of the property, there's currently a very large driveway, and cars can park willy-nilly. The proposal will close up the driveway, narrow it down so that there's a clearly identified entry and exit. They're proposing to put in a sidewalk along the frontage, which will connect to the northern part of the village, and to plant street trees. So from a community perspective, the site is going to be much enhanced. I mean, there's going to be a significant investment of money into the site and the look of the site. The parking spaces, as I said, they'll be removed from the front and they'll be delineated along the sides. Right now, 15 parking spaces are proposed, and there is the ability to fit a few more in if the planning board does require that. But I guess the real reason we're here is because some of the neighbors are objecting to the use itself, which is a farm market. Sorry, I don't have an assistant tonight, so just have to excuse me.
One minute.
Oh gosh, okay, let me speed up. So, inside the building, there's going to be lots of room for shelves along the sides, the front, in the middle, displays, produce. And then there will also be a walk-up counter where people can purchase prepared foods that really highlight offerings from the farm. You all should have received a produce list. It was emailed to you earlier, as well as a sample menu. So one of the things they do at Hermann's Farms, they produce eggs, and so maybe they'll sell egg salad sandwiches. They grow lots of tomatoes, they can sell tomato salad and tomato soup. Those sorts of things. So right now there's proposed to be 30 seats, walk-up refrigerator cases, and the counter. And again, the concept, I don't know if you've ever been to Gigi's in Red Hook when it was in operation at the Gregg farm. It was a country store. It sold the produce from the farm, but you also had the ability to go up and buy a cup of soup. And so that's the very same concept. So is Kevin here? Okay, so the farmer is here if you do have any questions about the farm operation. He is the operator of all the farms. I'm just going to take 30 more seconds. Part of the reason why this is unique is because Many farm stands do not have the ability to supply produce on a year-round basis. This farm operation is supplied by 5 heated greenhouses, which sets it apart from other farm stands which just don't have anything to sell in the winter. So they need extra market for the goods. If you want to have local agriculture, you want to support living wage local jobs, we need a place to sell these goods. Some people have said, why not just sell it at the Rhinebeck Farmers Market? A, the Rhinebeck Farmers Market is full, and B, you can't support a business selling products for 5 hours on a Sunday morning. You really need a better market for your goods. Thank you.
What are the hours?
Right
Proposed
now, the hours that are proposed are unlimited hours, but that is something that we could work out with the planning board.
There weren't hours that were talked about early on.
Oh, well, they wanted the maximum, which was, I believe, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. But that's something, like I said, that we could work out with.
So the rub on this, just for everybody else, that's the residential district. So it was recently entered into the agricultural district by the county. And that's why Ag and Markets now is involved. But the issue, our zoning currently has that as a residential district. And so I guess the rub is really on this is this really a farmer's market or is this a retail center? And that's really what the contention is, and you'll hear from different people tonight and maybe in the future, but that's really what's at issue here.
Right, and your zoning does allow agriculture in the district. So the question is a farm market incidental to the agricultural use?
I think I would say is this a farmer's market? That's, I mean, for everyone who hasn't been to all of our planning board meetings and our zoning ZBA meetings, so that's for you who haven't been there.
Does anyone else have any questions that I can answer?
Yes, so you mentioned 8 to 10 housing units, that would be the only other option for this property, would be residential?
I don't have the code over there, I can grab it, but right, the residential district is very limited. We could put in housing, you can put in agricultural uses, and there may be 1 or 2 special uses like a home occupation, which is not appropriate because there's no home. So the site is very limited. But agriculture is permitted as a special use.
Do you know of any other farmers markets that are open from 8 to 10?
We do. There are a few farmers markets, McEnroe in Millbrook. I have them in my materials. They all have various hours of operation. And part of the reason they wanted the ability to go so late is in the summer when it's light until 9:30. They did want the ability for people to come by, get some ice cream, and get a juice smoothie. So probably the hours of operation would be seasonal. They'd probably be reduced in the winter.
Has anybody looked at the impact to what it would be to the farmer's market?
In Rhinebeck?
Yeah.
They haven't, and to be honest, it's not a fair question because, communities can't choose one business over another, and so competition is just not something that communities are allowed to look at.
So just so you guys know, so we received a letter, and I think you all were copied on it. We received a letter back in March, early in March, from Ags and Markets, and it just kind of addresses the fact that they've received a request from the applicant for them to review this application, and they are. So Amalgamated and Victoria have supplied a bunch of information as to this project, and then Ags and Markets has asked the village to submit any information or documentation of which they would like that department to consider when reviewing this application. So we have, the ZBA has met, the public hearing is currently still open. The ZBA hasn't scheduled another meeting, but they plan to. So my hope was to gather some information from the next ZBA meeting and be able to respond from this board to Ags and Markets.
I believe the next ZBA meeting is April 20th.
Well, no, as a matter, they haven't determined it just yet.
Oh, I thought they continued the hearing.
Well, I talked to Colton today, so they were looking to secure that date, but either way. So, but unfortunately, that date is after when we're allowed to respond to Ags and Markets. So one of two things, I'm going to call Ags and Markets, see if we can get an extension to respond to their letter, or if they say no, then we'll have to call a special meeting and put together a list of concerns that we have. with regard to this application.
That sounds good, Scott.
I would add that really Ag and Markets is looking for life and safety concerns from the village. And so life and safety is, are we going to be storing manure near your village wellhead? Things like traffic and lighting, those are all things that can be worked out with the planning board. Those don't really rise to the level of life and safety.
Well, it's public safety and sanitary concerns, but they also want to look at the intent of the developer. And they want to, they've seen a lot of applications like this. The farm to table, they're suited as farm to table, and they're really restaurants in that kind of cloak. So there's a lot to this. Ag and Markets told me that it's 4 to 6 months for them to respond to this app. They'll gather information over the next couple of months, and they're likely to render an opinion within 4 to 6 months.
I want to go back to the 8 to 10 houses you said. Legally, with the amount of acreage that is there, 8 to 10 houses could be put there?
Yeah,
2 acres, quarter-acre lots.
Dwelling units, maybe.
Does that mean you would knock down the building that's there, put houses there?
it's an option.
I mean, I don't know how you
I mean,
can,
the
I don't
building-
see how you can squeeze 8 to 10 houses.
Oh yeah, the building would have to come down if it can't be reused under the code.
So, but with
You-
this,
you don't
with
want an
this
empty building.
agricultural designation now, you got some tax exemption, I think $100,000 tax exemption.
Right, so we're in the ag district right now because of the soils and the history of farming. And so we've demonstrated a commitment to this agricultural use. You know, should it not be possible to use this building for an agricultural use, there would be a penalty to leaving the ag district, but it would be a business consideration.
Anybody else? Thanks, Victoria.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
John will give you 6 minutes. Before the question period, keep it fair.
Good evening, I'm John Marvin. I'm one of the neighbors at 29 Mill Street. First of all, I'd just like to say, Heath, thank you for all your service. I know this has been a tough time for a lot of you, and I've spoken to several of you on the board about this matter, and from no one did I ever see this as any kind of partisan issue or something that anybody had any other concern other than what will be in the best interest of the village. So I appreciate all of you for that I've spoken to about this matter. Just a few quick things. One is I think Scott picked up the big issue is this really a farm market? It's an endearing term and it sounds great. Myself and none of my neighbors are against farming, and there's been sort of a sentiment that, geez, if you're not for this, you're not for farming, and that's absolutely not the case. Our problem is from the very get-go, I think when John decided this could be a special permitted use, it was because he misread and misapplied information that was fed to him on the agricultural markets law and the application of that. If you go to the Ag and Markets Law website, it tells you what the purpose behind the Ag and Markets Law is. And it's to prevent the encroachment of non-agricultural uses into farmland, into agricultural lands. And what I would submit to you that this is not that purpose. This is a 2.1 acre site in a village. It's not a farm. So in every sense of the word, it does not support the purposes of the Ag and Markets Law. The second thing is Ag and Markets Law does not prevail just only because of health and safety. It looks at 2 prongs. It looks at first is this an unreasonable restriction on a farming operation? And even if it is, then you can go to the health and safety and say, well, okay, health and safety trumps the fact that it's going to restrict farming. So no one's really paid any attention to whether, a couple of things. This is not a farming operation. Agricultural market, Amalgamated Associates does not have a farming operation. It doesn't farm. What they've come in and they've said is, well, we have other entities that own farmland in other municipalities, and you should consider them because they're affiliates of ours. And then they come and say, well, the fact that they're separate entities is just good lawyering. We want to limit our liability. Well, they want to limit their liability, limit their accountability, but for purposes of zoning and pushing this into our residential district, they want you to consider all of them. And then, of course, they don't offer anything to say, well, if we sell Tivoli, if we sell Stanford, if we sell. They don't say, well, then we're going to stop our market. Once this goes in, if it goes in, we all own it. So, and the other thing is 8 to 10, well, there's no farm market that I know of that's 8 to 10. If you go on any of the websites of anybody that they've cited as examples, none of them are open from 8 to 10. So anyway, that's my problem with this. I think that the way this has come about has not been sincere in terms of this is to support a farming operation, and if you don't let us do this, it's not a reasonable restriction on us. It's just not. This was kind of planned, let's slip this into the ag district, and then we can get a market there. This would be the predominant use for that site. It's not a farm site, you know. And and this is not against farming. This is what they're trying to put in a residential district. All right. The other thing is if they are going to consider all of the affiliates that they own, this is an owner that owns a lot of buildings, not just farms. He owns buildings in districts where this would be a lot. He owns buildings in the Village. He owns the Rhinecliff Hotel. He owns hundreds of buildings in New York City. He has umpteen outlets that he could sell this product. And to suggest that it has to be right here in a residential district is just not fair to say, well, only consider our related entities that we want you to consider. Don't consider all the other ones. So what they're trying to do is turn the whole agricultural markets law on its head. And they're trying to force this down you. And it's been like that from the very beginning. If you look at the business plan, it says, this is what we want to do, and we're going to go for the planning board just because we're being nice. But if you don't like it, then we're going to go to Ag and Markets. And what I don't think you should think is Ag and Markets, I don't think is going to come in here and say, yeah, we agree, because this is going to sell farm products, you have to do this. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to look at this, they look at it on a case-by-case basis, and they've never shown that this is any kind of unreasonable restriction on their operation. The other thing I think that you really should do is get that input from the ZBA. They're hearing this now, they haven't decided yet, so I think that you should ask for the extension to respond to Ag and Markets. You're just not really going to be able to do it. There's been a lot going on in the Village, and to be able to do this in a meaningful way by April 7th is just not realistic. So I can't imagine they won't give you the extension and give them the reasons why. I'm almost done. So you should ask for that extension and get that input, because they are going to weigh in and they're going to make a determination. And I would think that this, the Village Board will want to know what that determination is. So, any questions?
So John, yeah, when you say they're going to weigh in, that supersedes anything that the village would say, or?
Well, they're going to determine whether, what my appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals said, that the zoning enforcement officer was wrong. And that what he should have done is rejected that site plan application and said, if you really want to do this, you need to get a use variance. Everybody knows a use variance is very hard to get, and the applicant understandably doesn't want to go for a use variance because, you know, they're almost impossible to get. But I think that's what should have happened, is they should have, you know, because I don't think the applicant showed that this is a permitted use here. If you look at our definition of agriculture, it doesn't include a retail market restaurant, which is what this is. This has 30 seats inside, 3 picnics. The initial site plan had 11 picnic tables outside. They've reduced it, I think, 3, maybe 4 picnic tables outside. And over 50% of the floor plan is devoted to food service. So, you know, I think that, you know, that's the whole thing, is I don't think this is really, you can use the term farm market, but you have to look at the use. And my argument to the Zoning Board of Appeals is that this isn't an agricultural use. Certainly not by the definition in our code. This is a retail business. It fits exactly into the retail business definition in our code. And at the ZBA meeting, Victoria's partner admitted that this is a retail business, but because it's selling farm produce, you should allow it. You know, I think that's, you know, I don't buy that argument. We don't know what the ZBA is going to say yet, but that's the argument that was put there. You know, it overlaps. It's a retail business, but because it's going to be selling farm products, you know, you need to allow it. So.
Scott, help me understand this. We're being asked as a board to kind of give our opinion, but to who? The ZBA?
No, we would be giving our opinion to Ags and
You would be
Markets.
giving yours to Ag and Market,
We.
and we, as the board, would be giving our opinion.
Yeah, so the
to Ag and
ZBA
Market as
will,
well.
ZBA is going to make a ruling whether to affirm, modify, or to reverse John Fenton, our zoning enforcement officer's ruling.
that it's a permitted use, a special permitted use. And so, they're gonna do that.
And that's independent of our
That's
opinion.
independent of that. And so on going differently, the Ags and Markets is also looking at this and will also make a determination. I believe, has Bob Summers been down
Yes, can I
to visit? Sure.
Sorry. Yeah, so Bob Somers has been to the site, he's done a site walk, and he visited all the related farms. So that did happen right after that letter was issued to the village. And then just to answer your question, yes, the Ag and Markets decision would supersede the local zoning.
But they can certainly make a ruling, but it doesn't circumvent planning or a planning board or a site plan approval.
Right, it would still
So-
require site plan approval.
Right,
And
exactly.
so we're really just looking to get back to that board so we could work this out. Thank you.
Okay,
So this board needs to take comments from our planning board or zoning board and give one unified
Right.
response to Ag and Markets. And that's what
Yeah,
needs to
Ag
happen.
and Markets encourages it, it's not required, but I
Right.
mean, it's obviously in our best interest
Yes.
to respond and voice our concerns.
And just, the ZBA did retain independent counsel because Rich Olson was involved, and I had a discussion with Rich, and, Rich represents this board, really John Fenton, ZBA, Planning Board, and I think what he decided to do was say, let me step back from this. And they hired Kyle Barnett from Van de Order at the ZBA, so he's advising them. And I think for, any board that to get some legal advice on this, because there aren't legal issues involved, would make sense. And, whether Kyle would advise both of you or if you want to get somebody independent, I would encourage you to do that in order to formulate whatever decision that this board makes on how to respond. You might want to do that with some advice of counsel.
Yeah, I met with
Thank you,
Kyle
John.
earlier today, so yeah, he's been excellent to date. He's worked with the ZBA. I think he will well represent all these boards and work with us on our response. And he's currently working with the ZBA to make that determination to either uphold or reverse John's decision.
Thank you.
thank you,
Thanks,
John.
John.
So, Scott, it seems prudent that it might be wise to file for the extension.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
how
what
do we
I'm doing.
how do we do that?
Oh, I just call Bob Somers. It's not a filing, I'll just speak to him and ask if we can have an extension for another 30 days. And if he says no, then what we'll do is we can call a special meeting
Right,
of the boards and get them to help us formulate this letter.
so that's.
It's just a letter of concern. Yeah, I'll speak to Bob tomorrow.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
On to our regular business, the treasurer's report. Karen?
The treasurer's report is for the period ending February 28, 2017. The general fund ended the month with $1,032,345.51. The water fund balance was $629,031.52, and the sewer balance was $697,753.46. The vouchers presented for payment in the general fund total $66,254.19. In the water fund, $19,989.52. And in the sewer fund, $25,533.93. An operating statement is provided with the expenses and revenues through the period ending March 14th, 2017. The water and sewer adjustments have been reviewed and signed off by the water and sewer department liaisons and are presented for authorization.
I make a motion to accept the water adjustments.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to accept the sewer adjustments.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carrie, you have the copy of the budget
Yep, I have also.
formally delivered to Pat there?
I have, the prepared budget is presented to the clerk.
And I, in turn, present it to the village board and the mayor.
Well, thanks, Pat. Okay, I can take that file. So last week, earlier in the report, per state law, the budget was delivered to all the board members, and this fulfills the requirement to present it formally at a board meeting. So thank you, Karen, for all your work in getting that budget together. Should be noted, it did fall under the tax cap for the third year in a row. Still maintains funding for our capital reserve and the contingency line. So it's all there. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks.
For the police department, month of February, there were 28 incidents in the town, 96 incidents in the village, 26 tickets in the town, 85 in the village, a total of 5 arrests, and a total of 13 accidents. And if you haven't heard, we just hired a new part-time officer earlier this evening. That's it for the police department.
The fire department report for the month of February 2017, there were a total of 87 alarms for the fire department. 20 fire calls total, 12 in the town, 6 in the village, 2 mutual aid calls to Red Hook. There were 62 EMS calls total, 20 in the town, 33 in the village, and 5 mutual aid to Hillside, 1 to Rhinecliff, and 3 to Red Hook. There were also 5 motor vehicle accidents, 3 in town, 2 in the village. The ambulance did not respond to 10 calls, therefore the response percentage was 85%. The new Scott packs have been ordered, and once they arrive, the manufacturer and MES will conduct an in-service for all the members. Computers have been ordered and installed in 5932 in the chief's car. This will allow for more advanced command and assessment of incidents and pre-plans. And lastly, there are 5 line officers and 2 fire department civil officers who will be attending the Pinsky Law Group's annual conference at the end of March. The conference provides insight on the legalities of the fire department operations. Also, a note from Elijah Bender from Rhinebeck Fire Department, Inc. At a meeting of the investigating committee on 3/18/17, the following prospective members were found favorable for consideration by the village board. Liza Jane Powers and Nick Washburn would like to join the Rhinebeck Fire Department. So I'd like to make a motion to accept Lisa Jane Powers and Nick Washburn as members.
There's one more member, John Boland.
He's not on here.
It was on another email that was sent out.
Okay. John Boland.
B-O-L-A-N-D.
Okay, let me redo this. I'd like to make a motion to accept Liza Jane Powers, Nick Washburn, and John Boland as members of the Rhinebeck Fire Department.
Second. Discussion?
Wasn't Nick a member already?
Yes. Yep.
So he
Please
resigned
note,
and came
Nick
back?
is a returning member, and Lisa Jane is a new applicant. Yeah, I don't know the history. I don't know if we need to know the history, but
I
they found
didn't know he
that
resigned, that's all.
he's found favorable. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Who seconded it?
Got it. So I know this report was done on the 14th. I just thought we should note that those scat packs were delivered.
Oh.
That was here. They had the training right on this table on
is that
on
right?
Monday night. So they look beautiful, and hopefully they work just as well.
Great.
And I just wanted to jump back. I don't know if I mentioned on the budget. I'm not sure if Barbara Kraft is the only one anxiously awaiting, but public copies will be available for the public tomorrow morning via PET, starting at when the doors open. Anything from building?
No, the fees report for February is attached, as well as the monthly report for planning and zoning. The hot topic was one that you heard about just now. And there's, obviously you guys will be involved in a lot of that stuff going forward. I need to confirm when the next ZBA meeting is, so it may be sooner if I need to respond to this, to Ags and Markets prior to April 7th, but I'll keep you all informed.
Great. Highway?
Below is a list of jobs performed in the month of February. Snow plowing on the streets, snow removal on sidewalks and on abandoned property. Snow removal was done in the entire business district on February 14th. And I also added it was done on March 17th, last Friday. Road repairs were done, cold patch of the potholes were done, and apron damage was fixed. Catch basin repairs were done and cleaning. Brush removal from a storm we had, that was done. And the start of the stump grinding was done. I'd like to thank the guys for doing a good job last Friday in the snow removal. And there is a request to replace 4 overhead doors at the highway garage. It says quotes are attached, but I don't see any quotes. So maybe we have to push this off.
John Fenton has those quotes.
Okay. I know the doors now, they're pull up, and they're looking to replace doors with automatic openers.
So you want to move that to next month?
Yeah, we
Well,
can't
there's
do
no
anything
quotes,
else.
quotes. That's it for the highway department.
Water?
Water department. So total water treated, which I always report on, was 11,034,000 gallons, which is down a little bit from the previous month of 12,513,000 gallons. As you all know, we've talked about the vulnerability assessment that was done down at the water plant, and that has now been sent to the DEC for review, which was part of the grant process that we had received, that was a requirement to do. We're waiting for their feedback on that. Also, the proposed lot line change, which was brought up by the neighbor. We had all of our engineers review that. We had Sandtech look at it from an impact statement to will it impact. We had Crawford and Associates also look at it because they did a vulnerability assessment, and it has been deemed that will have a negative impact on the village water plant. I have asked Pat to talk to.
Will not.
Will not. Well, it will have a negative means it has no impact.
No, will not have a negative impact.
Will not have a negative impact. Sorry if I misspoke. Will not have a negative impact on the village water plant. And there's a report in the package here that summarizes what the engineers have submitted for that. And I've asked Rich Olson, our attorney, to provide the process for determining now the next step in that, to determine that property surplus. On the distribution system, we continue to work on installing new radio meters. 9 new radio meters were installed. And also, there was one of our contractors that did the master meter pit at the Thompson-Mazzarella Park wanted additional funding due to the amount of rock that was hit when they did that work. We met with him. We met with, the vendor was SunUp, and with our engineer Sandtech, John Fenton, and myself. And after we reviewed their report and had a discussion with them, they removed their request for that additional funding for that job.
Gary, did the homeowner pay for the people to come look at that and give that assessment? Or
No, that was on us.
we had to pay for that?
Yes, because we asked for it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Highly Road Reservoir, we had a tree fall on the fence, which has been fixed. I don't know the status of the, I know the tree's been removed, but I do not know the status of the fence being fixed yet. I know there was quotes out for that, but I do not have them. The water improvement project, which is ongoing. Sandtech, the last meeting I reported at DEC, Department of Transportation, DOT, did not like our previous report in terms of going down Route 9. They wanted us to go off the street and put it down the sidewalk. Sandtech has reviewed that and came back and said that there's really no cost savings in going down off street. So we're now trying to set up a new meeting with DOT to go over that and get that back on track. The project is still moving forward. We still would like to go out for bids in April and hopefully award it in May and start construction shortly thereafter. The only additional things that we would do would be, we wanted to finish it up before the start of the Dutchess County Fair. It will not be finished before that. We'll probably go into after the fair, but there's a lot of good months in there in terms of, after the fair was September and October to do additional work, which will still allow the project to be completed. And that schedule was included and sent to all of you prior. And from a personnel point of view, Tony Fada has received his grade D distribution operations certificate at the water plant. So I thank Tony for going over and above and on his own time to receive that. Any questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to go back to that lot line adjustment.
Yeah.
I think, at least in my discussions with the property owner, that any of the cost to make this happen would be
Oh, that'd be
their
great.
responsibility.
Because
I
we
think
didn't- I
that's
didn't
what
know.
we- Yeah,
That'd be super.
because it's really, we're doing the property owner a favor
Favor.
based on
Right.
error on
All right.
their end, so all that cost should be,
Okay.
including our legal fees, should be picked up by them in the process.
Good. Thank you for remembering that.
And Gary, we've been after for a couple months now, improving the fence in and around the water treatment plant to better secure the plant and doing something with maybe some video surveillance.
Yeah, and I've asked, we have one bid, and I'd like to report it, we still have yet to get two. I've asked John to still continue to work to get those additional bids for us to do that. So that's still ongoing, no update.
Wastewater?
Wastewater. Get rid of all this water stuff here. Okay, the report for February was the wastewater amount treated was 3.74 million gallons. Gallons of sludge processed was 33,700 gallons. And pounds of sludge processed was 5,401 pounds. Pete and I were looking into trying to see what the real capacity of the water treatment plant is due to all these new projects going on, and unfortunately our current engineer left, and Randy left, her Crawford, and so we have to see where that status is right now. She didn't really start yet, but we'll have to talk to our new engineer. That's all I have for the wastewater department.
I got something on wastewater. I apologize for using my phone, but I got it late today via text. So our chief operator, Peter Ratchin, was named the wastewater operator of the year by New York Rural Water. He'll be on the front cover of their journal. And this was
Wow,
for,
that's cool.
yeah, having direct responsibility for operational decisions and demonstrates a continued high level of performance, initiative, and all-around attention to detail in the execution of his duties and delegation to technicians. So congratulations to Peter on a job well done.
Very cool.
Maybe we can get him here next month too,
Yeah,
if he wants to stay up late.
well, he's got to go to their annual meeting where he'll get the award, and then he'll be on the cover of their
First, you gotta get him to get his picture taken.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Tree Commission.
Next here, we had a good meeting. We had two new members want to join, Natalka Chass and Connie Lound. I would like to put their names forward tonight. Do we have to vote to approve them to join the tree committee? So I would propose that we welcome Natalka Chass and Connie Lound to the tree committee.
Second.
Discussion. Are either of them village residents?
No.
No?
No,
Do they town residents?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have to be village residents. But
So that
we
would
prefer village
We
residents.
prefer, we just haven't had
Yeah.
people
Right.
banging
So that would
on.
make 3 out of the 5 then town residents, right?
That's correct.
I'm a village resident and I'll stay on it even if I'm not on the board, but.
So how many
I have to
openings
apply.
would we have?
I
if
mean,
we
on the
just-
village.
Well, what's happening now, as you may know,
Meg, you want to come speak? I'm sorry.
our board has been low for a long time. And as a result of that, James Marshall, who was on our board, went back to England. He was our secretary, and this happened in early fall, I believe, maybe it was even the summer last year. As a result of that, Sherry Monaco came to our meetings and offered to take minutes, though she is not a member. And Nick Monaco is also on our board, but both of them just sold their house and they're now renting in Red Hook. So I don't know what you want to do about that. They're both very happy and willing to continue to participate in our planting projects, which is fabulous. But you know, they're not legitimately part of either the village or the town, so therefore it's your decision. But I think, you know, if they don't continue to sit on the board, that makes our board, even with these new nominations, one shy of our full board, which is 5.
So we can also appeal to the public again,
Yes.
if anyone wants to join.
Yep. And we would love a village member.
It's a great board.
Yeah, that can publish it. Do we know what the code says in terms of,
You're supposed to be a resident.
Oh, 5.
yeah, no, 5, but does it?
It doesn't,
Resident of the town or village.
it doesn't
Village?
stipulate.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, it would be nice to have more village members, so anybody in the village, it's a fun job. You
It's
can
a great
beautify your-
committee.
You can beautify your village.
But does
And
it
helps out.
stipulate that you have to be a town resident?
Yes.
I think it's a town or village.
Okay.
We would love to keep Sherry and Nick on, but we would have to change the law.
Yeah, so, as I said, they're more than willing to help us with this next planting and maybe even the fall planting. And maybe by then, they'll have bought a house back in Rhinebeck, I don't know. Still looking.
Right.
So currently you would have you.
So right now, our standing members without the monocle, Coes or Walt Cotter and myself. Walt's here, That's it.
We could get
That's
Cecily
it.
back, maybe.
Yeah.
Cecily's here.
Or the Marvins.
Or
Or
Ann
the
Marvin might
There you
be.
go. So anyway, that's the status, and so I very much appreciate that you have, I think you just voted to approve 2 new members, because it'll be great to have almost a full board again.
We didn't vote yet,
No.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
So we did have a motion.
Kind of
It was a
discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and second.
Okay.
They're both extremely enthusiastic, they both have experience planting, they've come to our tree plantings before, they both have experience in gardening and planting other things as well.
Connie works at the Rhinebeck Community Garden at the Thompson Mazzarella Park.
Right, and I also know, well, Connie's been to our tree plantings, but she's also been very active at Wilderstein, helping me with the landscape there, so.
Thank you, Meg.
I think in the future, could we, I think this is great, but could we get a letter of interest from these
We
folks?
have.
You did.
Oh, we did?
Yeah.
Okay, from both?
Got it. Yep.
They're just not in here.
Okay, I remember seeing one, or at least.
One thing that came up is that the Brow documents have proven to be overly, I'm reading this from the minutes, have proven to be overly onerous, unwieldy, and unnecessary. They have been very off-putting to property owners otherwise happy to have new trees in their yard along the street frontage. We would like to address this in the next meeting or talk to our attorney about, we were told by NICOM that we didn't really need that. So I think we need to kind of address that. But all of the trees that are being planted for the spring planting, April 24th, they're all going to be done in the right-of-way. So we don't have to address that for this next planting. But we do need to address it over the summer before the fall plantings.
Gina, was there a deadline for people who have them in the Brow to have them signed and returned?
There were 3 different papers, and the last one was 4 pages long. It asked for tax documents and all kinds of
Tax
other stuff.
documents, and then you have to file it with $45 with the court, and it's unnecessary. It's ridiculous, and it scared people. I wouldn't have wanted to give my tax documents to someone just to plant a tree. You know, it was crazy. So we're gonna rework that, but for this next planting, we don't need it because we're not doing any in the Brow. So let's see what else. Oh, Meg and I are gonna go to Albany for the Tree City presentation for that award. Meg requested that someone from the board go, so I'm gonna get up super early and go with Meg up to Albany for that, to support them, because it's really a nice honor for our village to have that designation. And I think we're good. We're good for the tree planting. Anything else, Meg? We're gonna put gator bags around the 2016 trees. I think that's it. Oh, one thing, what did we want to know about the Legion Park, about the parking?
Yeah, we've been, you want me to-
Yeah, I'm very sorry, Meg. For the camera.
As you may or may not recall, Dave's Tree Service offered us a pine tree a year ago that was planted on the left-hand side of the drive that goes up to the top of the Legion Park. That tree didn't make it. Dave is willing to replace a tree for us. I would love to see it there, but I remember in your discussions about the Legion Park that there was some discussion about possibly putting parking on the left side. I just don't know what the plans are, but I don't want to ask him to plant a tree and then have to move it. So if you know what those plans, I don't know whether you even got the grant, but if you know what those plans are going to be, we could then go ahead and ask Dave to replace it there or else someplace else.
We have not heard on the grant yet, and the parking plan has not been finalized for Legion Park, for any future.
Was it on the left, as you finally submitted it, was it on the left-hand side?
The plan for the grant didn't include parking.
Oh, it did not?
Down on the bottom of the hill. It was only for the top of the hill.
Okay, so we
The
could,
handicap parking.
so we could go ahead and ask him to do that then.
No, well, I wouldn't though, but I mean, isn't
Right.
the future plan to have parking on the left-hand side? So why can't we share the plan with Meg and you
The
could?
plan as it was having parking on the right-hand side.
Oh, right-hand side.
But there's been some discussion that potentially people would prefer it to be on the left-hand side,
Right.
to leave the,
So, well, I could just talk to Dave and ask him if he'll just
Wait till November?
postpone.
Yeah, or move it
and-
further up.
Or is it
You know.
avoid both areas?
Excuse me?
Or avoid both? right?
Yeah, we could try to find another place in another park or Thompson Mazzarella or someplace else, but that's why I'm asking. I don't wanna.
Well, wouldn't it be advantageous to put a tree next to the stream to help the bank? I remember you said in the past.
Yeah,
about-
I would, but I wouldn't put an evergreen there.
No.
Yeah, we should plant those banks.
Thank you, Meg.
Thanks, man.
We have a-
So we might have gotten a little bit off topic with that discussion period, but I'd like to go back to all those that are in favor of the two new
Oh, I'm
members.
sorry.
Okay. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Power lines,
No report from Power Line Committee.
we got some special requests. I'm gonna go with the order that they're in the book. Request on the Rhinebeck Animal Hospital to have their
Customer
community appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that we have to approve that as an event, because it's part of their normal course of
Yeah,
business.
they acknowledge just to let the village aware, because it
Okay.
happens on their property, Pete knows. he's
Right.
already-
Okay.
Yeah. Next one, the Dutchess County Agricultural Society requesting their road closures for the dates included. Same dates as always, or corresponding with the same events as always. So I'll make the motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
May I ask a question before you go?
Yes, you can.
The Rhinebeck Animal Hospital one, in the future, when they request, should I ask them to fill out an application or a form, or do they not need to?
I don't think so. It wouldn't fall under the event code.
Or even a special request?
Right.
Okay, so I can just let the
Yeah,
board
and
be
you can
made.
say thanks for letting us know. Okay.
Yeah.
That's-
Okay, I just want, okay, thank you.
Next one's from the American Legion, for the Memorial Day Parade,
29.
inviting the village board members to participate. So this is, again, a similar request that comes every year to have the parade, so I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Center Clause, I think we should defer this one. They're still waiting for, there's a pending meeting with the Department of Health for their
Including the
event.
building use one,
What's that?
the building use too?
That's my opinion, that it should all go together because it's all part of the event.
Got it, thank you.
I believe that meeting is scheduled, right? That's the one on the 23rd? For Santa
Yeah.
Claus?
Yes. I don't know if it's a permanent, but it's tentative.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a confirmed date, but
Okay.
it was canceled once. I think they're working on confirming the date with all the emergency services and the Department of Health. Next one is a peddling permit For Mr. Dingling, ice cream as always. I'll make a motion to approve that one as submitted.
Second.
Discussion.
This is the same guy?
We got some comments.
Yeah.
You know, we used to make them, so it was something to do with the bell that he used to ring, and that
Right.
he only ring it when he was in motion, and that when he was still, he would shut it down.
Yeah. So
And I don't know, you know,
I have a comment or concern that the guy that applies for it, this guy Brian Callis,
doesn't even,
he's not the, I've never seen him driving it. It's another guy, so.
He did submit a secondary license for
Oh, he
another
did?
person. Yeah, and I had Pete run that one as well,
Okay.
and Pete was fine with that other.
Because I talked to him one time, I said, oh, hey, Brian, how you doing? He said, I'm not Brian.
Yes, I'm looking for it.
So what are you saying? We want him to stop the music?
well, that was Heinz's comment always, which I thought was a good one, I mean,
When he stopped.
when he stopped.
So is that like a stipulation of approving him?
I think I put that in the letter every year that he only rings the bell.
I just want to make sure we can
Okay.
catch it every year, I guess.
Okay.
Is there anything else, though? I mean,
This-
anything else, anything new, any other concerns that we would have?
The secondary person was Gerald McCarthy. So if you stop and see him, see if
So we make it as a requirement that it be one of these two guys that are always,
I think so.
Pete's done a background check on both of them?
yes.
And if there's gonna be another driver, they'd have to get supplemental permission.
So Gerald or Brian driving, and then the bell only when running.
Only when moving.
Well,
All those in favor?
Aye.
So we got something else from the Hudson River Valley Greenway, asking for a resolution. Did Rich give any guidance on this, Pat?
No, I asked him.
Okay.
It's for the seven, it's been there, I mean, I put it in a couple of times. It's for the 7 additional,
Well, it's odd that the date of this letter is October 28th,
Right.
2015.
yeah. It's for the other municipalities. I've talked to the county about it. It's been delayed, but there's 7 additional stipulations or things that's in that letter, and I've been sending it. And Rich never got back to me as to any problems with it, no matter how many times I've asked.
Did we move on to the Greenway resolution? We've got a couple more things here from Northern Dutchess Hospital, and
That was from last month.
it was in the Parkinson's group? Okay.
So my recommendation would be to hold off on the Greenway until we have,
A comment from Rich.
yeah,
Feedback
positive
from
or
Rich.
negative
Okay.
comment from Rich. 'Cause there's a lot of words in there. We have minutes approval from February 14th. Anyone got any comments on those? Or, so I'll make a motion to approve those as submitted via email.
Second?
Discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Maybe just that second letter.
So,
Maybe reach out to correspondence in there. Wouldn't typically read it,
What's that?
wouldn't typically read them.
No, we don't typically read them, but we do have correspondence from Dennis and Valerie Bakalidis thanking us for addressing their complaint with new road signs placed adjacent to their property. And we also have one from William Klutz commending the water department for the job they did addressing his problem, his water leak. Do we have anybody in the crowd that would like to speak? Anybody sign in?
This is,
Step right up to the mic.
the tree commission would just like, I would guess it would be Gary Bassett to make a proclamation for Arbor Day this year. That's part of our Tree City recognition, but it's also a very important thing, so it's just.
I think we've already done
The
that.
blank, no, for this coming year,
For this coming year,
moving
yeah.
forward. You did it last year.
Oh, I thought we just did it.
So you have to do it every year.
Well, yeah, I thought we just did one, but maybe it hasn't come yet.
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think
So
so.
do we have to do it tonight?
No, it has to be done before. We just need it to submit, and it should be done, as a publication for the Arbor Day, which is the last weekend in April.
Okay. Dan left. Brian? You want to speak? Yeah. Thanks for coming. Ann?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Meg, you're next. You want to speak again?
Good evening,
I
everybody.
went out of order.
I just wanted to speak on behalf of our neighbors on Mill Street. I know we have spoken in front of the planning board and the zoning board of appeals, but you are all a new board in our eyes. I just wanted to reiterate the issue with labels. I think this project is called a farm market when it really isn't a farm market. It's more a retail business, restaurant, whatever we want to call it is closer than a farm market in the sense that we all think about when you think of the one at the corner of the bridge approach that's closed right now and just opens seasonally, that kind of thing. That's in our mind what we think about. Also, we keep hearing the term, this is a farm. It is a 2.1 acre parcel in a residential neighborhood that, so if it ends up having homes, so we live in a village, that's what you would expect to have, not a retail business at your corner. I just want to remind you that in our code, I think a farm definition is 10 acres, so this is a very small parcel. And it's a parcel that can't produce enough to sell in this establishment, whatever term we use. It's impossible to think that you could have a business that is open from 8 to 10 p.m. selling something that's, in a parcel of 2.1 acres. And then when you think about their affiliated owners in other towns, they're not going to have the impact that we're going to have as residents of Mill Street on them. I mean, those municipalities are not going to have to deal with the issues that we have to deal with. And even if we curtail their hours or what they sell, who's to say that once they're in that establishment, they don't go back to Avid Markets and say, well, we can't make ends meet on closing at 5 p.m. You need to allow us to stay open till 10. And in the meantime, we all are raising kids on that street, and it's a residential neighborhood. And so I just think that it's a very slippery slope for the approvals. And, the two parcels across from me that were not purchased at the time that this was purchased were purchased by somebody else, and they're putting 2 homes in that parcel. They're 2, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, the intent when this parcel was purchased was to put a business there. It wasn't to preserve farmland or any of these things. It was to open a retail business when they couldn't do it under our zoning code. So that's really all I have to say, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ann. Valerie LaRose?
Hi, my name is Valerie LaRose. I live at 2 Mill Road in the village of Rhinebeck, which is the LaRose B&B, the red house on the corner. That's directly across the street from Hobson's. I've lived there since 2002, 15 years now. So I've watched Hobson's go from a business to a standing building, and sadly I'm just going to sort of reiterate some of what's already been said. I'm certainly not anti-farming. I'm a teacher in the Wappinger School District. I love kids, I love farming and all of the things that can go on with that sort of thing, but the hours and the fact that there's seats for 30 inside, that's not a farm market where you go in and you purchase a smoothie and you leave. 30 seats means you want them to linger, you want them to stay till 10 p.m. at night. is a really long period of time. And I'm also concerned about the traffic. Living where I live on that corner, I see many times during the year, during the Sheep and Wool Festival, during the Country Living Fair, during the Dutchess County Fair, traffic back up all the way up to my house. And so it can be a very dangerous thing to have people pulling in and out onto Route 9 or cutting across onto Mill Street at those times of year. It can be very dangerous. I also see a lot of people turning around in that parking lot, people looking for the Taconic, people looking for the Beekman Arms, people looking for the Rhinecliff train station, and so there are lots of distracted drivers. They often stop at my house and ask me for directions because I'm outside with my kids. And so, as has already been said, it's a very slippery slope. And the way that it's been presented as a farm market, I sort of refuse to call it that when it's very clearly a restaurant. And it's certainly not in a position to sell their produce when they have a Hermance farm market in Greenwich Village. So this is like a second location for them. So just take all of these things into consideration and really know what you're getting if you were to approve this. Thanks.
Thanks, Val.
Thank you. Kevin Ferry? Terry?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So I can definitely speak to the farms under common ownership by Neil Bender and Amalgamated. With exception to whether or not the property is important to our continuation of farming, it is very much part and parcel to what we're doing. We're trying to plan in accommodation for it. We have 4 full-time employees, we have 3 part-time employees. We keep people employed in this community. We work with community distributors, community restaurants. Today I had a 152-pound hog over my shoulder going to Panzer and Tivoli. We work with restaurants closely. This is something we feel very important, is very important to what we're doing. And it is not ancillary or unimportant to what we're doing. It is actually key and fundamental to what we're doing. And insofar as the land and what Amalgamated and its owners have done in the community, keeping land open, keeping the entire frontage of the southern Rhinebeck border open for ag, is something that maybe we should all be thinking about a little bit more. Possibly, if we didn't, entertain the idea of a simple farm market, we could be entertaining, maybe, I don't know, who knows what. But I think we have a great approach to what we're trying to do. Yes, farming is always done on multiple parcels. It always has been, always will be. And you do need a common site to do your marketing and your distribution. In regards to the Rhinebeck Farmers Market, Andrea is a friend, and I've counseled with her about this, and we are in no conflict with the Rhinebeck Farmers Market. So with that, if there's anything I can answer for you, we are open 52 weeks a year. We sell, 4 days a week. We're making sales. We have greenhouses. We're open year-round. We can meet every demand that this will require.
What are the hours of the Gansevoort market?
I'm up here, so I'm not in the city. So I couldn't say with specificity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Christine Pizzuti?
Hi, I'm Christine Pizzuti, and I'm a farmer over at Hermance with Kevin. I'm sorry, I know that you probably did notice me looking at my phone the entire time, but I was taking notes. I don't have a pen and paper with me tonight, just like during our last planning board meeting. I will try to be brief. I want to say that I have been a vegetable and livestock farmer for some years now. Kevin and I were in Wassaic on the eastern side of Dutchess County before moving to Tivoli to work for the Benders. who own Herman's Farm, which is going to be supplying the produce to the farm store. We work 7 days a week. We work really hard at growing vegetables, and we do it really well, I might add. And those of you who know the eastern side of the county know that it's an area that still maintains a lot of its agricultural production. There are a few farm markets over there on the eastern side. Mr. Marvin in the past has mentioned McEnroe during one zoning board meeting as being an example of a legitimate farm market that doesn't sell prepared foods, which would be in opposition to ours, when in fact McEnroe has a deli inside. I even bought a flower press for my niece for Christmas there one year. You will find that farm markets and farm stores that don't sell prepared foods and are successful would definitely be the outlier. They would be the exception. It's very hard to find one. There's Silmar Farm Market as a farm stand on 22. She now rents out to a different farm so that she can continue to make a profit off of her property because she actually does not have the zoning to be able to serve prepared foods. And actually, back then, I do want to talk about McEnroe just one more time. Mr. Marvin stated back in another meeting that McEnroe is actually located in the town of Amenia. And tonight, Victoria mentioned that it's in Millbrook. It's actually in the town of Millerton. And it's much bigger. It is much, much bigger than our site. And you know, the fact that it does have that full deli sort of does disqualify it from that dream of a farm market without prepared foods operating successfully.
Is it in the village of Millerton?
No, no, it's not. It is not in the village. No, it's on Route 22. Also, the Wallkill Farm Market in New Paltz has the best apple turnover in the county. You'll also see, like Victoria mentioned, GG Market was another example of a completely innocuous farm market, farm store that also sold prepared foods. That place was great. It's also been asserted that selling prepared foods disqualifies us from being a farm market, and that it also turns us into a restaurant. I have to say I really disagree with that. I've been vending at weekly outdoor markets for years. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. I've been vending at weekly outdoor markets for years, and the woman who sells the vegan Indian cuisine is a close friend of mine there, and there's also someone who I think sells falafel at the Rhinebeck Village Market here, and I don't think that anybody would consider that a means of disqualifying it from being a farm market. Our challengers have brought up the point that the vendors own several properties in the area and that those should satisfy our needs for retail spaces. One of those is the Rhinecliff Hotel. It wouldn't necessarily be right to conclude that we should be able to throw all of our produce at the Rhinecliff property. It would be the same as saying that the landlord of a law firm's building would have the right to say what type of law is able to be practiced there. They aren't, in fact, completely separate entities. You know, we are farming on this property, and this farm market is absolutely going to be a farm market. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Cecily? Anybody else who wants to just? Okay.
Cecily Frazier, 8 Sunset Road, and I just want to say thank you very much to all of you, but particularly to Heath and to Gina for all that you've done. Thank you, Cecily. And to everybody else, good luck. I have lived in the village 45 years, and I live right around the corner from Mill Street. And I spend many hours walking from my street down Mill Street to Mill Road, and sometimes into the cemetery, and sometimes down to the village. And it's a beautiful, quiet road. And I think that bringing this size business with the kind of traffic that would come with it would be a dramatic change, a really incredibly dramatic change to what it is now, which is a place where you can basically walk down the middle of the street most of the time. And if you have, 16 parking spaces and 30 seats, and you're open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., you're expecting a lot of people in there. And they have to turn off Route 9. That's already a very dangerous place to turn in because people are rushing into the village at pretty high speed, frankly, even though the speed limit is 30. But they're going 50 pretty much most of the time. And pulling in and out is dangerous now. And if you have a lot of people pulling in and out, I think it's gonna really get dangerous. And I'm sure there will be accidents. You know, everything that has been said is, you know, still true. I'm certainly not anti-planting. You all know me well enough to know that I love trees, I love plants, I love farming, I love farmers. But I don't think it's an appropriate place to cite a large business, and as much as they will sell food that is produced by these farmers, I don't think it is a farmer's market. And that's up to you, but I appreciate your listening to my position.
Thank you, Cecily.
Thanks, Cecily. Brian?
I also use my phone because I take a lot of notes. My name is Brian Lavender. I own the property on 11 Mill Street, right opposite of this property. And I'm going to say a lot of things that most people don't even remember. But 20 years ago, when my wife and I decided to put a dance studio at 11 Mill Street, it was a commercial property. And I had to jump through hula hoops to take a manufacturing facility and put in a dance studio. Now I'm going to tell you what the village asked me and my wife to do. They asked me in 1.5 acres of land to put in a parking spaces for 20 cars. You, on the other hand, have 2.1 acres and you want 15 cars to be parked there? I don't get the logic. I really don't. Also, the village asked me to put in no more than 2 lights. 2 lights for 1.5 acres. And my neighbor, Judge Willie Sanchez, asked me, said, Brian, one of those lights are too bright. You know what my wife and I did? We took the light out. So now there's 1 light at the dance studio. Also, Valerie, please tell me how big the signage for this building is going to be.
It's Victoria, and
I'm sorry?
we will address parking and lights as soon as we're allowed to go back to the planning
Okay.
board. I mean, that's what the board is for. The signage, I have the plan, it's all compliant with the zoning.
It's compliant.
Yes.
But it's funny, you're probably going to have a gigantic sign, but I couldn't have more than a sign 4 square feet. Which, if no one knows what their mathematics is, that's 2 by 2.
Well, I'll give you
And
my
my wife,
card if you
and
want
my
to
wife,
attend.
I don't need your card. If I have a lawyer, don't worry, I have it. All right? Now, you might think this plays in your hand by it being commercial property. I don't think it does, because that is one big neighborhood. And now I want to get back to your operation hours. It's funny, the dance studio can only run from 1 o'clock in the afternoon until 8 o'clock at night. And I have all my neighbors that can vouch that that dance studio is closed at 8 o'clock at night. And this might not be the forum, but I think 10 o'clock is just a little late at night for what you want to do.
Okay.
And that's really all I have to say. All right?
Thanks, Brian. Thanks,
Brian. Well,
Anybody else want to speak? Anybody here got anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say something about Heath. I want to thank you, Heath. I've been a deputy mayor for about 5.5 years, and there was a point when the mayor at the time, Jim Reardon, had to leave due to a job obligation, and I was next in line, but I know I can't do the job because my current job is very, a lot to do with my current job, so I wouldn't be able to do the mayor's job very effectively. So Heath came to my rescue. Thank you, Heath, for stepping up to the plate. You've done a good job, and good luck in the future.
Thank you, Howie. Anybody else? So with my motion to close, I will say it has been an honor and a pleasure serving the village. And do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Good night, folks. Thank